So the world's biggest palm oil producer, Indonesia, first said that it would ban the export of certain types of palm oil. This sent the edible oil market into a tizzy. Global edible oil consumers will have no option but to pay higher prices for supplies if this comes true. So let me just take you through some facts and figures first before we get to the debate. India's annual consumption of edible oil is about 2.4 crore tons. Annual import of palm oil from Indonesia is about 45 lakh tons. 55% of all the edible oil we require in India is imported, and Indonesia accounts for 58% of global palm oil export. In fact, 75% of palm oil imported by India is crude palm oil. So we are very, very dependent on Indonesia. Now, we really don't know what has led to Indonesia softening its order. The reason that they, in the first place, wanted to clamp down on exports is because their domestic prices are rising, right? And no country wants that hit on their own consumer. So they wanted to curb the exports. That's bad news for us, but we're one of their biggest buyers. So perhaps they were behind the scenes negotiations and Indonesia has softened its stance. But the question we're asking today is a bigger one. The question we're asking is, why are we not getting more self-reliant as far as edible oil is concerned? Why are we still importing 55% of what we need? Where is the Atmanirbharta as far as edible oil is concerned? In Feb, we're scared about the Russia-Ukraine war hitting our sunflower oil supplies. In April, we're scared about Indonesia pulling the plug on palm oil. We really need to find another way. To speak on how we can do this, I'm joined tonight by Atul Chaturvedi, President of the Solvent Extractors Association, Shankar Thakkar, National President of the Federation of All India Edible Oil Traders, is also with us on the show. I'm speaking with Sudhakar Rao Desai, CEO of Emami Agrotech and President of the Indian Vegetable Oil Producers Association, and Devinder Sharma, a Food Policy Analyst, is also joining us on the show. Welcome to all of you and thank you so much for speaking with us today. Mr. Desai, let me begin by getting your take on the current situation. Huge relief that Indonesia seems to have softened its stance, but these are still reports. Are we sure now that there is no ban or no stoppage or no limit on the export of crude palm from Indonesia, which is what we largely import?
Yes, just about a while ago, there has been a notification which says that confirming the rumors that Indonesia is now open to exports of CPO, which is crude palm oil, and also the RBD palm oil, which is basically a stage before making of olein, as you call it, palm olein. So these two oils can be imported, and if you are importing RBD palm oil, you need to fractionate it, and then you can make refined palm olein for direct consumption. Basically, that is it. But it was known actually that Indonesia, which has levied export tax of $575, and also created a advantageous export levy for finished goods because they believe in Make in Indonesia campaign basically. And they're also struggling with domestic inflation. They tried various things, including domestic market obligation, which means every exporter has to give certain amount of oil into the domestic market. And also they wanted to curtail the price artificially. But then this issue of Indonesia was never that of shortage. It was that of price, basically. But comparatively speaking, since Indonesia is the largest producer, you would expect why they should have an inflationary problem. I think everybody, all the players, found it more incentivized to export, and that's why they felt the shortages. This was a very harsh step. And Indonesia exports, like you were mentioning, they produce about 4 lakh tons a month. They need to export 2.5 lakh tons a month, 2.5 million tons a month. They produce 4 million tons a month, which is not small. So it is not something that you can keep in your storage tanks without exporting. I think the better sense has prevailed, and now there is a new opening that you can export. Now, as far as India is concerned, if this is all going through and no more frequent changes, what it means is that India will import in the form of crude palm oil or partially refined oil and then it's available. I think as far as that is concerned, it is definitely a temporary relief. That's why you found today 9%, 12% volatility in a day.
Right.
In the morning, market went up by 9% and came down by 2%. Sometimes it used to take 6 months to 1 year for that volatility. So much so about this Indonesian campaign right now.
Yeah, so we'll come to more aspects of this story, but thank you for just setting the stage there. So we don't know how this happened, how this U-turn happened, how the softening of stance happened. We can only speculate if some phone calls went through from one of their largest buyers saying that don't sort of hoard all of your oil. But the larger question over here, and let me come to Mr. Thakkar with this, is our dependency on imported oil only increasing? Because demand is increasing, and if you look at data from over the decades, we are now importing more and more edible oil than before. Isn't that a fact?
Yes, ये बात आपकी बिल्कुल सही है, पर जो पर हेड कंजप्शन है इंडिया का वो भी बढ़ रहा है, इंडिया की पैरेलल आबादी भी बढ़ रही है, इसके लिए दिन ब दिन हमारे देश के अंदर जो खाद्य तेल की खपत है वो बढ़ने लगी है और आने वाले दिनों में भी बढ़ेगी। और दूसरी तरफ हमारा जो घरेलू उत्पाद है वो जो मात्रा में सरकार सोच रही है वो बढ़ नहीं पा रहा है, उसमें भी कहीं ना कहीं सरकार की कुछ गलत पॉलिसियां हैं। सरकार आज हमारे देश के अंदर जो सरकार ने फंड एलोकेट किया है आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने के लिए, जो हमारा आज का सबसे पहला इश्यू है, उसमें 11,000 करोड़ रुपए पामोलिन के लिए अलॉट किए हैं, 6,000 करोड़ रुपए बाकी जो ऑयल सीड्स है उसके लिए एलोकेट किए हैं। जब हम पिछले 25 सालों से कुछ हमारे देश की कंपनियां पामोलिन का उत्पादन बढ़ाने के लिए देश में प्रयास कर रही है और उसमें उनको आंशिक तौर पे ही सफलता प्राप्त हुई है, तो इतना बड़ा फंड हम पामोलिन, एक तरफ हम देश को आत्मनिर्भर और देसी चीजों की तरफ लोकल फॉर वोकल ये बात कर रहे हैं, तो सरकार से हमने गुजारिश करी है और हम सरकार के प्रतिनिधियों को मिलकर बताया भी है कि आप देसी तेलों के उत्पादन पे ध्यान दीजिए, जिससे साल में उसको हम 3 बार भी उत्पाद ले सकते हैं, जबकि पामोलिन
ये समझाइए ठक्कर साहब कि हो क्यों नहीं पा रहा है। ये तो हम आज पूछ रहे हैं इस कार्यक्रम में कि अगर वोकल फॉर लोकल होना है, आत्मनिर्भर होना है, ये हो क्यों नहीं पा रहा है?
सरकार की गलत पॉलिसियां है। मैंने पहले ये शब्द यूज किया है क्योंकि सरकार अगर चाहती तो ये हो सकता था। सरकार ने 11,000 करोड़ रुपए का फंड पामोलिन के लिए लगाया। पामोलिन का अगर आप उत्पादन करना चाहे तो कम से कम 5 से 6 साल आपको उत्पादन स्टार्ट होने में लगेंगे, जबकि हमारे देसी उत्पाद है उसको अगर अच्छी तरह उसका काम उस पर किया गया तो साल में 2 और ज्यादा से ज्यादा हम 3 बार भी उसका उत्पादन ले सकते हैं। तो हमारी जो पॉलिसी है, पॉलिसी में बदलाव करना होगा तो हम उत्पादन बढ़ा सकेंगे इसका।
Okay, let me understand this, Mr. Chaturvedi, and I'm going to ask very basic questions because a lot of our viewers may not be very, knowledgeable about the whole edible oil business. But we want to understand this from a broader perspective. Why so much dependence on palm olive oil, on palm oil? Is it because it's the cheapest?
Not only it's the cheapest, but it is also competitively priced and logistically available just next door. In fact, if you look at sunflower or soybean oil, the voyage time for soybean oil would be anywhere between 30 to 35 days, sunflower another 30 odd days, and palm can come to the country in about 8-10 days. So it has a big advantage, and palm, whether we like it or not, is again the most competitive oil in terms of yield per hectare or per acre or whatever. So obviously palm is the preferred oil, and world consumes almost something like 40% palm oil, and India is no different. And let me also tell you, you've been asking why India is in such a bind. In fact, we've gone wrong as far as the definition of food security is concerned. Over the years, we've called food security as nothing but wheat and rice security. But wheat and rice in isolation is not going to do the trick. It's not going to keep your kitchen fires burning. You need oil as well. So in fact, we've been telling the government is that you need to expand the definition of food security and include edible oil and pulses as well in that. So the definition of food security meant that Punjab and Haryana would only be producing wheat, rice cycle. And the other thing is that in the early part of this century or last 2 decades, edible oil prices were relatively weak. So that bred complacency among all the decision makers. My take is that this knee-jerk reaction or this knock on our knuckles in the last few days or few months would probably wake up our policy makers and decision makers, and they would implement the national mission on edible oils or oilseeds, which has been talked about for almost the last few years, but only lip service has been done. So I think it's a blessing in disguise.
No, but what is the gestation period? I want to understand a couple of more things. Let me go across now to Devinder Sharma. If you can explain to us why our farmers are not producing more oil seeds, and what do we do to get them to grow more oil seeds? Because it's okay to announce a lot of policies, but we need to incentivize farmers to actually grow this. Are our conditions not conducive to this, or what is the situation?
Well, I'm glad, first of all, that you're talking about Atmanirbharta as far as edible oil is concerned. And let's not forget, I think if I take you a little back to understand how things have gone wrong over the decades, I remember when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister, and I'm talking of 1985, he began a program called Oilseed Technology Mission. And under that Oilseed Technology Mission, the effort was to see that we can increase our edible oil production within the country, oilseed production, and of course the edible oil production. And that was almost achieved in 93-94. In 93-94, we were into what is called as the yellow revolution. We had achieved it. In fact, we were almost self-sufficient in edible oils. When I say almost, 97% of edible oil we were producing within the country. Only 3% was being imported. This was in 93-94. And then we began to reduce import duties under pressure from WTO and also from domestic pressure. The bound rate of duties under WTO, as far as edible oil is concerned, is 300%. Enough room for us to play around. But we started reducing those duties, coming to almost zero at some stage for crude oil or for refined, both the oils at that particular stage. And then India became, we are inundated with edible oil from across the world, especially from Indonesia and Malaysia. Now, that is what has actually destroyed the yellow revolution. We have the green revolution, we have the white revolution, we also had the yellow revolution, but we deliberately killed it. And that is the reason why we are in this serious crisis today. And I thought all these years, ever since we have destroyed our yellow revolution, we should have made an attempt to bring it back. And farmers are willing to do it. It's not that farmers don't want to do it. Give them the right price. Let me give you one example. Before the war broke out in Russia and Ukraine, the edible oil prices were already at a high. We know that according to the FAO's price index, the prices have reached the peak, even before the war. Now, what happens at that particular stage is the farmers are getting a higher price for mustard. Now, in Punjab and Haryana, there's a lot of effort being made for the crop diversification from paddy to other crops and so on. But it wasn't being achieved. Now, the price incentive alone, because farmers were getting about 7,000 rupees per quintal for mustard, look at it. The area that they brought under cultivation in 2021 was equal to the area that we were anticipating in 2024. So just 3 years before, that particular level, we have our farmers made that possible. They actually brought that area because they were getting a higher price. So basically, price is a big incentive. Don't blame the farmers. They can do it. Punjab farmers.
Who would pay this higher price, Mr. Sharma? Just let's explain this very simply. Are you saying that MSP needs to be increased for oil seeds? Are you saying that new mechanisms need to be put through? And if it's as a simple situation as higher price, the price the final consumer is paying for edible oil has only been steadily increasing.
Yes, we know that the price that the consumer pays is steadily increasing. But the point is, you cannot starve the farmers and expect them to do wonders. We have to provide farmers with the rightful income. And if minimum support price, it doesn't matter if you announce minimum support price, a higher price, unless and until you ensure that that price is deliverable to the farmers or is delivered to the farmers. So I think that is a factor which is very important. We didn't do it, and you know what has happened all these years. Now I think this spike that we see, or the hike in prices that we see all around, should give us a lesson now. Let's draw a lesson. Are we ready to pay a higher price now? Why can't we pay a farmer a better price so that they keep the prices that we are talking about?
Mr. Chaturvedi wanted to come in on this. Mr. Chaturvedi wanted to come in on this point. Mr. Chaturvedi, why can't we pay all of this money we're paying to import from outside to our farmers and incentivize them?
No, what Mr. Sharma is saying is absolutely spot on. In fact, for far too long, we have actually pampered the urban consumer as far as edible oil is concerned. And this pampering has been at the cost of our rural folk or the farmers engaged in oilseeds. Unless and until you do not incentivize the farmers, and our farmers are very, very smart guys and they understand the price signals. So as Mr. Sharma rightly said, this year, if it was not for mustard crop at close to about 12 million tons from 8.5 million tons last year, we would have been in very, very serious trouble. So the signals have to be, and mind you, nowadays at these levels, I think my take is that the farmers are getting a better realization from oilseed compared to what they can get from wheat or rice. So I think some signals are already going. And for this, it is important that the import duties should be kept relatively high to see that the government of India doesn't need to come and procure every damn thing under the sun to defend its MSP. If you keep the duties high, automatically the market forces will ensure that the prices are kept high. So I think these are signals which are going to the market, and this Ukraine war or this recent ban, I'm sure would wake up all the policymakers, and something will get done, and we would probably are again at the cusp of a yellow revolution. And I see a lot more seriousness in the government towards oilseed now. So I think we will be able to make a lot of difference in the coming years.
Okay, what is the kind of gestation period? Because we're in for a bumpy ride in the next few coming years. When we say coming years, it's a vague timeline, right? So let's get a little more specific. Let me come to you, Mr. Desai. Now, today, if we start pushing and want this yellow revolution, and we really, push our way forward to get more self-sufficient on edible oil, what would be the way to do it? Which is the edible oil or edible oils we should pick? And what is the kind of gestation period you're looking at?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. And obviously, it is a journey. You can't suddenly do it. It has to take at least 2-3 years. But amongst all this crisis, high prices would also mean, of course, temporarily it's bad for the consumer, but it also, like other speakers are saying, it's a trigger for the farmer to strategically move from wheat, rice, and other oil to oilseeds. I mean, assuming that he wants to grow what is most profitable. So having said that, it's a great opportunity, whatever we have missed. The high prices is a great opportunity right now to grow more of groundnut seeds, more of mustard, more of sunflower seeds. I think long back, India, South India and Bihar and UP used to produce a lot of sunflower oil. And probably, I don't know, GM technology, which has been adapted in by way of cotton or by way of meal imports, might be one solution, because the biggest problem in this whole oilseed sector has been the productivity. As far as time frame specifically, I think these being a low season, within 6 months, I think some kind of improvements can happen. As far as palm is concerned, I agree, it's a 4 to 5 year horizon. without any governmental scheme, so to say, in case of soybean and mustard, in the last 2 years, we have already seen a 28% growth. So with impetus and with the right focus, along with the industry and the technology on one side, the institutes for better yielding oil seeds, and with the government support, I think there could be an incentive for the acreage shift, strategically speaking, because India has done wonders as far as everything else is concerned. Look at wheat, rice, dairy, pulses. I think the same thing can be done at this price in oil seeds. Maybe the time is has never been more right than doing it now.
Okay, in the
So
short term,
there is a short term, there
right.
is a medium term. Both can be done. It's not a big issue
तो
right now.
ठक्कर जी, अभी अभी हम बात कर रहे हैं कि आगे चलकर हम आत्मनिर्भर होंगे एडिबल ऑयल पर और उसमें समय लगेगा, लेकिन अब शॉर्ट टर्म में क्या हम और बढ़त देखने जा रहे हैं एडिबल ऑयल के दामों में?
बढ़त ही होगी, क्योंकि जब तक हम रिक्वायरमेंट के मुताबिक उत्पादन नहीं कर लेते हैं, ये जो जहां से हम इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं वो सारे देश हमारे साथ खेल खेल रहे हैं, ऐसा मेरा मानना है। क्योंकि जब हम यहाँ पे इंपोर्ट ड्यूटी कम करते हैं, सेकंड डे वहाँ पे एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटी बढ़ा दी जाती है, और हर समय पे वो सिनारियो देख के हमारे साथ अभी भी ये इंडोनेशिया जो कर रहा है वो एक खेल ही है। वो जानबूझ के सब वहाँ पे इन्फ्लेशन आप देख लीजिए इतना बड़ा नहीं हुआ है, लेकिन उनको पता है कि आज पामोलिन में वो और उनके साथ मलेशिया दो ही लोग हैं। अगर वो इस तरह का खेल खेलेंगे तो दो जो बड़े बायर है चाइना और भारत, इसको परेशानी में डाल के दाम ज्यादा ले सकते हैं हमारे पास से, क्योंकि यूक्रेन और रशिया वहां से तो आने वाले 2-4-6 महीने तक कुछ भी आप माल मंगवा नहीं पाएंगे, ऐसी परिस्थिति में नहीं है। दूसरी तरफ वहां जहां ब्राजील अर्जेंटीना, वहां पे सोया का जो उत्पादन है उसमें कमी दिखाई दे रही है। तो आने वाले दिनों में दाम काबू करने के लिए हमने सरकार को इसके पहले 1 साल पहले भी हमने पत्र लिखा था और पर्सनली मिलके भी बताया था कि आप जिस तरह की पॉलिसी आपने व्हीट और राइस में बनाई थी उसी तरह आप बफर स्टॉक रखिए। जब भी बाजारें काबू के बाहर जाती है आप अपना बफर स्टॉक मार्केट में रिलीज करिए ताकि बाजार जो दाम है वो काबू में आ सके। लेकिन सरकार ने हमारे सुझावों पर कभी भी ध्यान नहीं दिया है, इसके लिए आज आम जनता को ये सारी चीजें भुगतनी पड़ रही है।
अब सुझावों पर ध्यान देने की सख्त जरूरत है। वी नीड टू रियली figure out a way to accelerate the move towards being more independent, more self-sustaining on edible oil, because look at the situation. We are now dependent on crude, we are dependent on edible oil, and as geopolitical tensions rise, as the world becomes a more uncertain place, we're dependent on a lot of tech. We need to figure out how to insulate ourselves, much like many nations around the world are doing. Well, on that note, I want to thank all of you for joining us on the first panel, the lead debate this evening.